Hey, how are you? So, for some reason, the information meeting, the video didn't work. So, I have to make another one, and then hopefully this gives you enough information. If you have any other questions, of course, feel free to contact me, and we'll go over the tour, and then maybe that's gonna help. My name is Dr. Pai. I'm one of the full-time faculty with the Department of Criminology and Justice Studies. Well, I'm doing this not as a part of a criminology program. I mean, Italy has their own problems, but we're not here to deal with that. Instead, it's a great education opportunity. Traveling is the best way to learn about the world. And with our school, most of our students have never really traveled, and many want to travel, but they are a little bit intimidated because traveling, especially international traveling, could be a little bit challenging, especially if you go to a country and you don't speak the language. So I do this pretty much every year. And then, and also partly because I love Italy. Italy just it's just such a fantastic place, and the program that we're traveling, we are hitting the most important and some of the most interesting places in Italy. So anyway, I'm talking about our tour, giving you some information, and then hopefully we'll help you decide whether you want to go, or if you have more questions that you want to ask. Okay. And so yes, and I have attached PowerPoint, some pictures so that you can take a look at the places that we're going, and some more information with the PowerPoint. So yeah, take a look, and the information that I'm giving goes with the notes that are attached in the email. So we're traveling with this company called EF. EF stands for Education First, and they are a company that specializes in traveling, putting together these programs, these tour programs for university and high school students. So we're a university, we're obviously in a university, and the traveling would be a little bit different. It's a little bit more free, and like a high school, group that you have curfews and all that stuff. But no, in our case, because we're adults, so we are pretty much free to do whatever you want. How it works is that we fly over there, and then they'll set us up with a professional tour director. Now, our group is not going to be that big. If we have a huge group, then we just go as one group. But we are not that big, so we get consolidated with several other universities. And usually the group ends up about 30 people, and which is not a small group, but it's not a big group. So EF, they have a professional tour director to work with us and to lead the group when we get there. So I'm actually not leading the group. I'm just organizing here, and I'm going with a tour, and I'm going with you guys. But I'm not the tour guide because my Italian is really, poco poco. I'm learning, but nowhere near good enough to do it on my own. Even though I've traveled in Italy quite a bit, and I speak a little bit of Italian. So, but anyways, hold on, my cat is acting up. Okay, you see the cat? It was creating problems in the background, so I had to deal with that. But anyways, we are traveling with the company called EF, and they are huge. Every year, over 1 million travelers they go with EF, and I've been working with them for the past 5 years, and every year, I put something together to Europe, somewhere around the Mediterranean, because it's just beautiful over there, and the food, and also the history and the culture and art. That's always interesting. So this program, I've done several different programs with EF, and this program I think I like the most because for one thing it's Italy, but also because the way it's paced. So it's a good balance between a lot of things happening in the program. Very exciting, but also it's not overwhelming. You have a lot of time to actually enjoy the place and then not rushing from city to city to city. And so how it works is that during the morning, when we are in the city, during the morning, well, with the exception of Venice, because getting in and out of Venice is a different thing. But in the morning, we usually have a group program. They will have, in addition to the tour director, they have a local tour guide to take us to specific places. These are really important places, such as a cathedral or a town square, and a walking tour through these beautiful, incredible places from the Renaissance or other eras. And then these tour guides, they are usually experts in art and history, so giving us a lot of information, interesting stuff, and learning about different cities. And then usually after lunch, we're free to explore on our own. And then so you have a lot of free time to really be on your own. So it's like a really nice balance between program and also that's free kind of traveling. So that's why I like working with EF and previous years students when we go to groups. Many of them really found the experience really something else, and and they learn traveling a little bit, and then they go travel on their own after the program. So it's almost like an introduction to traveling in Europe, so that hopefully you go to a program and then you learn to travel by yourself, and then next time you just like spread your own wings and do your thing. Anyway, so yes, we're going to Italy, and then now the departure date. All right, we have requested the departure date of May 21st, and May 21st. That's right after the graduation. That's a Tuesday after the whole commencement exercise. CSBS. I'm assuming you're with CSBS. We're always doing our graduation on Sunday, right? And then Tuesday, that's our requested departure date. What it means is that in case we don't have enough people to travel, we get grouped with another group, and it might there is a possibility that we might leave a few days later, just in case. But I wouldn't worry too much about it, because we always have enough people, and we always get to leave on our departure date. Okay, so May 21st, that's our requested departure date, and we'll be leaving from Los Angeles International Airport. And then most likely, because there's no direct flight from LA to Venice, we are flying straight into Venice. And so we'll take a transit somewhere. Last year we took a transit in Chicago. So we flew into Chicago, and then we took another flight from Chicago to Venice, and then boom, we're in Venice. Okay, and then the flight back, will be flying back from Rome. Okay, and it depends. Last year, the return flight, it was direct flight, so it's a lot easier. The flight over there from LA, let's say if we go to Chicago, from LA to Chicago is about 3 hours. And then Chicago, we usually have a transit time of just about an hour, a little bit over an hour. And then from Chicago to Venice, it's 9 hours. And then once we get there, we most likely, if we take the same flights like last year, we get there in the morning, and then we start. We just start. We just start going, and it's really exciting because you're there. You want to start seeing stuff, right? Okay, so like I said, the program we fly into Venice. We spend 2 days in Venice, and then we take a bus, a tour bus to Florence, and then from Florence we stop by Assisi, a town called Assisi. That's St. Francis, the cathedral where St. Francis was buried. I'll talk about it in a second. So we took a detour from Florence to Assisi and then to go to Rome. And so, yeah, we are really going from northern Italy to southern Italy. And you see the changes in the weather and in the people and in the culture and even in the food. So it's really interesting that you get to see all that in a short period of time. So the first city, Venice. Venice, if you look at the PowerPoint or the notes I sent you, yeah, Venice is an incredible place. So it's a artificial city built in a lagoon. Everything is built. There's nothing. There's no land until northern Italians started thinking about building this city called Venice. So they built it, and then the entire city is built on water. So people travel through these canali, right? And the entire city, there's no car. There's no car. There's no trains. There's no subway. But you either walk around. It's a really small city, or you take a boat. Well, you've seen movies, right? The gondolas, and then they also have water taxis, and they have a water bus called Vaporado, and it's amazing. We get there, and then we see. And Venice is also really famous for glass making, the glass blowing. And if the program is the same, then we see a demonstration of glass blowing, and we talk about the history of Venice, and then what glass blowing is, and then rest of the day we spend in Venice just walking around. And I know quite a few places that you might be interested in, having a drink, or having dinner, lunch, or something. It's really something else, and it really looks like the pictures. The pictures are not exaggerations; they are not photoshopped or anything. But Venice actually looks like that. And from Venice, and then we'll take a tour bus, the entire group, and then we go to Florence. Well, going back to Venice, you see three pictures of the Grand Canal. One is the bridge is called Ponte Rialto, the Royal Bridge, and it's right in the middle of the city. And I know all these places, and we'll have maps and all this stuff. And so yeah, when you're in the middle of it, it's just something else. And then another two pictures. That's the St. Marco Square, Piazza San Marco. Piazza, that's plaza, piazza, but Italian. And yeah, the top picture is a painting from the 19th century, and the second one is a real picture. So everything is like unchanged. It really looks like all the paintings that you see. Like if you go to LACMA, for instance, right? There are a couple paintings, and it really looks like that. So from Venice, then we go to Florence, Firenze. So those of you who study history, that's where the Renaissance, where it happened. And it's during the Renaissance, that's the most powerful place in all of Western Europe. And then Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and many famous artists. That's where they lived, and that's where they worked, because the family that ruled Venice, the Medici, they were using their finance. They're really incredibly banking family. So they were hiring all these artists and commission works of art to show off their wealth and to tell people how incredibly wealthy they are. So we'll go see the Duomo. The basically is the basilica, the main church of Venice. Right, you'll see the Duomo, which was once an incredible feat of engineering because it's dual layered. They built a church, but they didn't know how to finish the dome, so it was left open for 100 years until another guy called Brunelleschi came around and then designed the dome. So we'll stay 2.5 days in Florence, and there's an option that you can take going to Pisa with a group. They have a day trip to go to Pisa to see the Leaning Tower. And because Italy is not really that big, it's a lot smaller than California. So the program, if you take that option, you can take a high-speed train for about an hour and go to Pisa and see the Leaning Tower. And of course, you can Instagram, all your friends and tell people that you are in Pisa. And then, like I said, in Florence, we'll see some major works of art. If you look at the slide with all the statues, the most famous one, of course, is the Statue of David. We'll see the real one. There's the real one, and there are several copies. And the real one is at a museum called the Academy. L'Accademia, and it's included. Most of the admissions they are included in the tour, so we can go as a group, and then we don't have to join the lines. We just go and see the Statue of David, the real one. There are several copies, and one is in the main square, but those are copies of the original. And then there are two other statues. Those are my favorite statues. One is bronze in the middle. That's the Perseus with the head of Medusa, and that one's made by Cellini, Benvenuto Cellini, and then the next one is Giambologna, his statue of the abduction of women from Siena. So these are really interesting and incredible work, and because I've been there a few times and I know how it works. And some of the museums, if you want to see some more work, some museums you'll have to make reservations, so I can help you make reservations and make sure that you don't miss any of this incredible stuff. And Florence is one of my favorite places in the world, and there's just so much art and there's so much good wines. It's in the region called Tuscany, and some of the best wines in the world comes from there. And over there, Europe, everybody drinks wine. They are wine culture. Doesn't mean that you drink until you but it's absolutely normal to have a glass of wine at a meal, and then so incredible food. And the interesting thing is that, of course, you can go to a high-end restaurant, you can have a very expensive meal, but for the most part, food is actually not expensive. Right? If you pay 10-15 euros, you get a very nice meal, several courses with a drink. And euros, at the moment, the euro is pretty weak against the US dollar, so we're in luck. Otherwise, when it gets expensive, then it gets more expensive, the exchange rate. But at the moment, euro is not bad at all. So that's why it's cheaper to travel now, right? And they just had some economic problems, so things are going to be even cheaper when we get there. What I do is that instead of taking all the money with me, I use my debit card. So your bank debit card. There are several systems that you can just go to an ATM and withdraw cash, right? So I like doing that because I don't have to worry about where am I putting my money, am I going to lose my money, or if I'm going to get pickpocketed or something. It's really safe, but just the worrying, right? A lot of people are worried about traveling because of that. But what I do is that I bank with the Bank of America. And so they have an agreement with a local bank over there, and I can just withdraw cash, from over there in Italy without having to pay the processing fee. I mean, it's we still have to deal with the exchange fee and so on and so forth, but it's quite convenient. And I use Google Map to find out. Google Map works over there just fine, just like everything else everywhere else over here, right? So I use Google Map to find out the locations and get money, and it's really easy. It's a lot less difficult as people think. So Florence will stay there for 2.5, 3 days or 3 evenings, I think, and then we get to enjoy the town, and there's it's a big city, so there are a variety of things you can do. You can visit museums, you can go eat, you can go drink, or if you want to go shopping, there are several markets. There are several big markets that you can, either buy souvenirs or whatever you want to go shopping. And then the food. I know several places they are actually quite affordable. They're quite cheap. And then the pasta is just magnifico. So the food there is great, the wine there is great, and I can help with a lot of information when we get there. And then from Florence, then we move on, and then we stop by and take a day trip to a town called Assisi. Assisi is one of those medieval town on a hill. It's really great. If you look at the pictures, that grand structure, that really long structure, that's where the cathedral is built on. All right. So for those of you who are Catholic, Saint Francis of Assisi, the Man of the Bird, that's where he is from. All right, and he's buried in the basement of the cathedral, and we have. It's part of our trip to go to the cathedral, and actually, if you want, you can go to the basement, the crypt, to see his tomb, and you'll see a lot of Catholics, doing a pilgrimage, and it's something. And then the town is really small, and there are a couple of places to eat. There's really fantastic food. And then the picture on the right hand side, that's a hill just up the town, that you can get to see the entire region of Umbria, and it's a beautiful region. It's just so magnificent. And the bottom picture, that's inside the cathedral, and the walls and murals are painted by this really famous Renaissance painter called Giotto. And so this is a pretty interesting trip, because one single trip we are seeing most of the important painters of the entire Italian history, and we get to see that. So from Assisi, we spend half a day, most of the day, and then we go to a cathedral, and then we have time to have lunch, and then hang out, and then do more shopping and stuff. And then we head down to Rome. Rome is called the Eternal City. And when you get there, you'll see why. So if you look at the next picture, next slide, we see three places, right? The Vatican, and that's the St. Peter's Basilica. That's where the Pope, that's where he would hold the Mass. And the St. Peter Square, right? And we'll spend a whole morning at the Vatican to go through the Vatican Museum, and then and then we go to see the inside of the Basilica of St. Peter's, San Pietro. And I'll say more about that in the next slide. And then the middle, of course, is the Colosseum, right? Colosseo. And we go there as well. We spend another morning touring the Colosseum, and then the bottom picture, that's the Roman Forum. That's where the government of the Roman Empire used to be at, right? The Roman Senate, and then so many important temples and buildings. And that's an archaeological site that the tour will go and go through. So the next slide, you see the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, Cappella Sistina. And the famous, if you magnify and look at the middle of the ceiling, yeah, the Adam and God, that's Michelangelo. He painted it, right, painstakingly over a period of 4 years. And then the other side of the wall, he painted the Last Judgment. But we get to see the ceiling of Sistine Chapel, and it's really something to see the God and Adam, and being there. That's part of the what is called the Vatican Museum. Vatican, interestingly, it's actually the largest art museum. They have the largest art collection of the entire Italy. And we'll go through the museum. We'll see some really important pieces of work. If you go to the next slide, you see the picture of Pieta. That's another piece of work by Michelangelo. So he made this when he was 16. Right? Pieta meaning sorrow, the deep sorrow. That's the Virgin Mary after Jesus died or was executed by the Romans, and his body. And well, that's inside the St. Peter's Basilica. We get to see that in person. And then the next one is my favorite, another of my favorite piece of artwork. That's called Laocoon. Is inside the museum, and it's actually ancient Greek, so even older, centuries older than the Roman Empire. And they discovered that, and they moved it to the Vatican, and it's been there since. So, and like I said, we spent another morning seeing the Colosseum, and it's something when you go inside the Colosseum, and you've seen it in movies, and of course the famous movie The Gladiator. And then when you go inside, you're actually there. You get to walk around, and you got to not just spend time taking pictures, but if you find a little corner and you sit there, you think about thousands of years ago, because it was built more than 2,000 years ago. So you think about 2,000 years ago, people were sitting there and watching what the gladiators and all those sporting events, and now you are there. It really makes you think about the world differently. And then the Roman Forum. We actually go by where Julius Caesar was assassinated and killed, and then inside the Roman Forum we'll see the place where he was cremated. Right? So we get to see that, we get to walk through it, and it's really incredible experience. And so the next slide was included. So from Rome, we'll fly back to Los Angeles. Now, I mentioned if you want to extend your trip, extension, if you look at the enrollment, if you want to extend your trip, you have the option of leaving from another major city, right? Like Paris, like London, like Amsterdam, or of course Rome if you want to stay in Rome for a few more days. And that extension is free. You just have to make sure that you register that before the deadline. Then you can extend your trip without paying extra. And of course, the traveling, if you travel to another city, that's on your own. But actually, buying plane tickets in Europe is really cheap because it's actually really small. So if you $100 or something, you can fly to another major Europe city. And it's really convenient, and I can help you with answering questions and traveling. I've traveled quite a bit in Europe. So what's included, if you look at the slide, the airfare. All right, the airfare is included. And then hotels, triple rooms, so 3 travelers would share the same room. The hotels in Europe, sometimes they get expensive. And because of the season that we're going, it's still kind of affordable. And that's why, I know it's not a cheap program, but it's still more affordable than going on your own. And then we have bilingual tour director. Last year, I've worked with some fantastic tour directors. They're all very friendly and very helpful and very responsible. And so it's been really incredible working with them. And they are, they have, they're all Italians, and of course they speak Italian, and then sometimes they know the local places where to eat or where to have the best espresso you've ever had, and it's really cheap. The best place in Rome, the espresso, it's about $1.50. So $2 for a really fantastic espresso, or some kind of ice cappuccino or something like that. It's really delicious. Oh, much better than Starbucks. Forget Starbucks. And then transportation, right? The boats, the gondola ride is included, I think. And then the bus, of course, a tour bus going from city to city. And also the ride to and out of Venice, all that travel, all the transportation is included. And then guided tours and activities, we have local tour guides, and that's included in the program, and there's no extra. And like I said, you learn a lot about Italy, from these guys who are very knowledgeable, and many of them are really funny. And then the program, every morning breakfast is included in the hotel, and so even days that are free, there are at least 2 days that there's one day, I think. If you don't go to a Pisa, then we have one day, you have one free day. But every morning, breakfast is included in the hotel, and so we'll have breakfast, and then we'll go as a group to do the program, and then by about lunchtime, we're free to go do whatever, and then come back to the hotel in the evening. So that is included in the program. And then we have 3 dinners. We have 3 dinners included as groups. The food is pretty good. Actually, the food is, last year the best meal was in Florence. And it was a steak dinner, and the beef in Florence, wonderful. And you'll have a support from EF 24/7, because I always have somebody on standby, just in case if you want to make a phone call. And I'll help you with getting knowing how to work the phones, and what you need to do with your phone to get a phone service and internet service and all that stuff. And then they also give you a backpack, and they do have some other supports and stuff. And from my end, like I said, because I've been there several times, so I know how things work, and then I can give you more help. And maybe if you want some extra tickets to go to different places, I can help with that also, right? So the deadline, enrollment deadline for the tour is actually coming up next Friday on the 15th. You can still enroll after the deadline, but just like buying airline tickets, everything gets more expensive when it gets close to the departure date. So I would really encourage you to seriously consider, and then leave yourselves more time to sign up, and then and maybe think about having an extension to another city. I actually don't work for EF. I'm just the organizer here, and so I don't handle the money. And probably Season would have they wouldn't be happy if I handle any money. So if you are interested in enrolling, the website that I am including in the email, and also use the tour number to ask questions. Right? They are very helpful. They are not scary at all. So it's a good thing to call them up and find out more what questions you have. Or of course you can also contact me directly, to see what answers or in what ways I can help you with. Okay. So that's pretty much all the information that I gave at the information meeting. And again, it's a great program, and it doesn't sound that long, but there's so much happening. Bada bing, bada boom, and it's so much fun, and that's why I keep doing this every year. And when students come back, having such a great time. So anyways, once again, the deadline is the 15th. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and hopefully you'll join us on this adventure. And so let me know. All right. I hope I talk to you soon. Take care.